Now I'm, 28, 29 years old, and I have to start over.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into I was basically just looking for a job.
Yeah.
So I went from thinking I'm going to be worth 100 million,
Yeah.
excuse me, to driving a shitty car and having to start all over again. So I reached out to a former alum of ULowell, a guy that had played basketball at ULowell. And that's how I got into the sports flooring business.
I remember you telling me that like you were getting into the sports floor business and someone was like telling you like don't do it, like it's way too hard of a business.
So when we first got in it, I went to work.
You started by yourself, right?
No, I went to work for a guy, and I was selling Sport Court and which is outdoor stuff, and he got the opportunity to sell gymnasium floors and so he asked me to oversee that, and I reached out to a few experienced companies in the area who I knew would be my competitors, but I just wanted to gauge. And one of them was literally, when I called him, was going out of business. And he's like, look, can I give you a piece of advice? I said, sure. And he's like, run as far away from this business as you can. He's like, you're not going to make it. It's difficult. He just rattled off 10, but my gut was telling me I didn't see it. So I ignored, what he was saying. And we started in Maine, in the state of Maine, did really well. And then after about 2 years, I got an opportunity to start my own dealership, which I did. So by then my wife and I had built our house, with modest money. But I got a home equity line of credit on my house for $100,000. And that's how I started
Really?
Yeah, that's how I started the business. And at the time, I was scared to death. I remember someone my wife met through school, because she's a teacher, came to our house to sell us like life insurance and a 401k and all that. Yeah. And I remember her telling him, we were sitting in the kitchen, and I'm maybe 30 years old now, 31 years old. And she's like, told him that I just started this business and how well I was going to do. Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, oh shit, like I can't let her down. Yeah. Like she believes him, because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But and I can tell you this, that a lot of people, when they're coaching kids in sports, they talk about how the lessons you learn in sports you can apply to life. I mean, I took the work ethic that I had used to get a scholarship in basketball, and I just literally applied it right to business. I was working 16, 18 hours a day for years, and just didn't take no for an answer, and got it done and built a successful business.
You were originally running it like out of your garage in your house, right?
I was literally, for the first 4 or 5 years, I was running it out of my garage. My employees would have to show up to my house every morning, go into my house, get the supplies that they needed. But I've always tried to run lean businesses. Yeah. And back then I was doing it because I was just scared to death, right? But it also taught me that you don't need a lot to have a successful business. Like, you don't need fancy offices, you don't need fancy vehicles. And so, and then finally I bought a warehouse with an office above, and I put, a bunch of money into making it nice. And we had a nice, place to work out of, but I definitely waited.
When was the first time with that company that you were like not scared, where you're like, all right, I'm all right?
So my first year, so it's funny, my first year was at 2008 when the economy was going to shit.
So that's when you started it?
Yeah. And that was the end of my first year.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy. And you did pretty good the first year, right?
After taxes, everything, I had $260,000, and I had never had so much money in my life, and I couldn't believe it, right?
Yeah.
And that's after paying all my living expense, support my family for the year.
So you said like 260.
I had 260,000 extra dollars, and I was blown away that I had made so much money. And I remember I'd tell my wife, and she didn't want to hear, because just didn't believe me. But so then after that, it was just like every year got It got more difficult because we kept growing, but it got a little bit easier because I knew the money, the money was coming.
So how'd you go from, you went from what, 250 or 260? What was your best year that you had with that?
Man, you're asking me all the private questions. I made probably close to 800 my best year.
Nice. So how'd you go from the 260 to the 800?
Working my ass off.
What'd you do differently? I mean, obviously you work hard, but like, what did you do differently?
So, I always used to say this, I grew responsibly. So I wasn't chasing the money. I wanted to do a good job, and as we started to do good work and honor like our mistakes, when we had mistakes, I would stand by them and I would do what I said I was going to do for people when I said I was going to do it. We started to hire more people and so the business just grew organically, but I didn't rush it. I wasn't chasing the money. I was trying to build a solid business with great references. And so, it's I can't even tell you I had this master plan to say like, I'm going to get to the point where I make, that much money in a year, or I just wanted to do a good job and I just kept my head down and my life got a little bit easier. So, we still, even to this day, I still live in that same house that I built, 21 years ago, I mean, we drive nice cars and stuff, but I don't, I try and live within my means.